Okay, here's a question for you. I just watched the video and it sparked this idea. So, plumbers versus e-commerce brand owners. Now, a plumber is somebody who works bloody hard. They work 10 hours a day, maybe even more, maybe even weekends, sacrificing free time, family time, all in the hope of like working more, making more money to try and escape this rat race and whatever. Whereas somebody who can literally sit on a computer for 3 hours a day, start a Shopify brand or start a Shopify store, grow an e-commerce brand, and earn 10 times, 20, like a multiple times more than the plumber by doing less physical work. Yes, it's different in terms of mental and physical work, but they aren't physically doing these 10 hours a day and working weekends and grinding themselves to the bone. It doesn't come down to effort. Growing a Shopify brand to the level that you want and becoming successful financially with an e-commerce brand comes down to taking smarter risks. If you have a Shopify brand and you're currently stuck at conversions and it's not growing the way you want, it's probably because you are not taking these smarter risks. So let's touch on risk versus effort. You know, you might feel like you're putting in a ton of effort. I mean, I'd even argue that plumbers work harder than most people. Anyone in a trade, anyone with a manual job works physically hard. Like, they put their body through severe work. When it comes to e-commerce or your brand, say for example you have a Shopify store, you might be doing all the effort yourself. You might be fulfilling the orders. You might be doing all the packing, all the marketing, like all this effort, right? But what I think a lot of people fail to realize, and this comes down to anything, and this is why the plumber will always struggle to break free, it comes down to making smarter risks with time, effort, and money. This is why a plumber will never break free, because they are taking very low risks. Yes, they are very useful. A plumber is very useful to come and fix your pipes. And a plumber doing what he does is very low risk. When it comes down to growing a Shopify brand, or like from what I've seen and learned from a lot of people online, if you want to make copious amounts of like money and grow to like ridiculous levels, it's not about working harder, it's about smarter risk taking and weighing up this reward versus risk. That's how people get ridiculously rich. That's how Elon Musk is one of the most valuable people in history, as other people are. It's because they have become very, very good at risk taking. Let's just take an example now, which seems to be obviously all over the news and stuff. Bitcoin. I have a bit of Bitcoin. I'm not actively invested too much in it, but can you imagine if you'd invested money into Bitcoin when it was $1, $100, $10, $1,000, whatever, and it's at like $118,000 now of writing this, you would have made a lot of money, a big return on your risk. That would have been an easy risk to take. Can you imagine that? You would, like, if you'd have put in $1,000 into Bitcoin at a price was like $1, you wouldn't have to work a day in your life ever again right now. It'd be ridiculous. And some people have done that. That's just one example of risk taking, right? Now, I'm not saying you should go and gamble all your money and stuff with the Shopify store and, you know, run all your money on paid advertising and all this stuff. It has to be strategic, but it's understanding this concept that effort alone doesn't grow a Shopify brand. You took a risk when you first opened your e-commerce brand, okay? You put the effort in to build the store, create the product, get it all manufactured, get it in front of people. That was a risk. So how does risk specifically look in e-commerce? Like I said, you started your store, that's a risk. You want to be testing different things. Now this is interesting. Risk in e-commerce is testing different things that might not work. But if you test 10 things and one of those things pays off in a big way, how much is that risk worth to you, right? Now, how I see it, a lot of Shopify store owners and e-commerce brands, they're just optimizing what's already there. A risk inside of e-commerce could look like testing different pricing structures. It could mean trying to increase your price to see how sensitive your customers are to pricing. We've done this with Apex. We increased the prices. I was a bit skeptical of it. My business partner, Peter, was not. He was like, let's try it. And we went from maybe £69 to £89, and there was barely any change in conversion. So that was like a very big mindset block for me to break through. It could also include things like trying Trojan selling or testing, giving away your product for free as a trial basis, which again, there's more details on that below. These are all risks. I say taking risk in e-commerce is trying things that might not work. Now, the chance of Trojan selling working are very, very high, but at the same time, your mindset when testing new things is going to be default to, well, what if it doesn't work? What if I put this money into Facebook ads or whatever ads and it doesn't give me a return, or I try Trojan selling and it doesn't work, or I try this price instruction, it wastes my time and people don't buy and my conversion rate drops. These are all things that might not work, but if one of these things works and pays off and increase your conversion rates and just the overall performance of your store, was it worth it? I'd probably argue you're going to say yes. How do we judge risk in e-commerce? Well, you have to become at making asymmetric bets. So what does this look like? Let's say, for example, it comes down to a monetary thing, which it will. And this bet is going to cost you a considerable amount of time to set up this maybe new strategy for your e-commerce brand. And let's say, for example, it pays off. Theoretically, the bet that you win pays off. Say, for example, it pays off and you say, oh, theoretically, it's going to 10x my brand. Would it be worth it? Whereas the downside, if that is only a week's worth of effort, which is worth, I don't know, £500 in labor, is that a good risk? I'd argue yes, because if it does pay off, you've just 10x your brand. Or you've just spent, or some people will say wasted, £500, but it's not really a waste, it's more of a learning lesson. This happened to us in Trojan, with Trojan selling, with Apex goggles. We thought to ourselves, well, if we don't try this, what's going to happen? The store probably will grow at a linear pace, but we could accelerate the growth of our store. We could increase the number of customers who are coming into the front end of the business dramatically because we're reducing that barrier to entry by literally giving people the product. We've had a 98 or 9, I think we've had it out of it's like a 99% success rate or something ridiculous like that. It's a no-brainer basically. The downside to this, if it didn't work, what would we actually still get? Well, we probably would get higher conversion on the front end, more brand exposure, probably more UGC, user-generated content from customers doing the unboxing and stuff, which then would probably fuel future growth and future sales of the business. So it isn't really a big risk to us. It wasn't a big risk. And that's kind of what we're trying to explain to people when they're on the fence about applying Trojan selling to their brand. It comes back to this concept of taking smarter risks. We see Trojan selling as a bloody smart risk. It isn't really like going into a casino and putting all your money on black or red and hoping the ball lands on either or the other. It's not like that. It's not gambling. Or maybe it is gambling. Maybe you see everything in life as a gamble, which I think everything in life has a risk associated with it. It just does. Some just have bigger payoffs than others. I think the final point I want to touch on is just about taking controlled risk. Controlled risk is the way to grow, and it is the way to continue your growth and keep getting momentum. I think what we've realized with the things we've been involved in is that momentum is the biggest driver of everything. Like if we lose momentum from business sense, revenue, profit, mindset momentum, anything, marketing momentum, social media momentum, everything dies. You have to keep that momentum going. You have to keep that flywheel spinning. And if you can control that risk taking, then you're always consistently going to have this controlled momentum. I hope that little tidbit was useful, but yeah, it doesn't come down to effort. It comes down to taking smarter risks, guys. So if you are stuck, growth on your Shopify store, it's probably down to your risk taking, a tolerance to risk taking. Don't settle for second best. Look at where you are taking risks in your brand or business, and I challenge you to take some risks and see where it takes you. Because I personally think if it's done correctly, the smart way, there is only a positive upside.